Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason in Chester, Illinois, and here is a redo or remake video of Popeye's character trail video, which I did about 4 years ago here in Chester. I'm standing right in front of the Popeye statue. At the time I did it was either August or September 2021, and they still had another statue to go, but then they stopped doing it in 2022. I'll explain more about that. But I felt like it was time to do an update video on the Popeye character trail. So it would probably make more sense if I did it that way, because it doesn't look like they're gonna put up any more statues, at least not anytime soon, unfortunately. But I'm gonna go ahead and start with Popeye. So here we go. All right, there's statue number one, our hero Popeye. It was placed here in 1977. I mean, yeah, you can tell there's a little bit of wear and tear. I see a few cobwebs, and I hope the city or whoever's in charge of this cleans it up every now and then. It hasn't even rained. I mean, it's been raining all summer, but I mean, I feel like there's been a drought, you know, so far. But this is only August of 2025, and here is a plaque. And by the way, each and every statue has its own QR code, or maybe most of them. All right, so Popeye. This statue is erected in tribute to Elzie Segar, born in Chester, Illinois, December 8th, 1894, died in Santa Monica, California on October 13th, 1938. He is also buried there. Mr. Segar created Popeye from his recollection of Frank Rocky Fiegel. He lived from January 27th, 1868 to March 24th, 1947. He was a local scrapper. Popeye first appeared in the cast of Thimble Theater on January 17th, 1929. William Windy Bill Shoeshirt, who lived from 1857 to 1941, Chester Opera House owner and Mr. Segar's benefactor, appeared as Wimpy the Hamburger Fiend. Well, we're going to learn about him in the trail. But, yeah, I mean, Popeye is no doubt a cultural icon. And according to the website, well, the guy who has been putting up these statues, people from all 50 states have experienced the trail, as well as 94 countries from around the world. And I think it's documented in that guest book that's in the Welcome Center right there. It's open. I mean, you can use the bathroom and look around for a little bit, but there's like no attendant in there, so they got part of it closed. They're also working on the Chester Bridge. That bridge, by the way, was featured in the movie In the Heat of the Night, legendary movie, but they're working on a new bridge because obviously it's old and it's aged. So don't be shocked if you see any construction crews in the next year or two. But definitely check out the Chester Welcome Center. They have a lot of brochures. I mean, besides the character trail, there's a lot of other sights to see. I mean, Popeye has lived on for many generations. It has its own YouTube channel. I think there's also a channel on the Roku channel app and Pluto TV app, if I'm not mistaken, like where you can watch all the old cartoons. And I used to have his comic books. I had maybe like 3 or 4 of them, and that's how I really liked Popeye. There was also the cartoon Popeye and Son, which didn't last that long, but it was still cool to watch back in the late 1980s. There's also the 1980 movie starring Robin Williams as Popeye. You'll probably hear me mention it a lot throughout this video. And then, of course, if you watch Full House, yeah, Dave Coulier's impersonation of Popeye, you've definitely heard it a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to visit all the statues in order, the way they were placed. And it wasn't until less than, let's see, yeah, 3 decades after this was put up, a character trail for Popeye characters was put up, and we're gonna go now to the Gazebo Park where Wimpy is put up, so come join me. All right, so about 1 mile northeast into town is this opera house, and that was where Elzie Segar worked at. He got a job there at the age of 12 as a projectionist, and that's where he developed his love for entertaining people. And the idea of drawing cartoons came to him, and that's when he started learning by mail how to draw cartoons. And right here is, of course, a mural. That is Mr. Segar himself, the creator of Popeye, as well as these beloved characters. the cartoon versions of all the granite ones that we're all gonna see, like, yeah, Nana Oil, Coil, Hamgravy, the sad one. It's nice to see Bluto and Popeye and Olive Oyl all smiling together. But also is this gazebo square, they call it, and right over there is the statue of, yep, you guessed it, Wimpy, who happens to be mooching on a hamburger. Popeye's lovable hamburger mooching associate was inspired by Chester Opera House owner William Windy Bill Shoeshirt, sponsored by the Smith clan. Now, Mr. Shoeshirt was also Segar's boss, and hopefully he had a sense of humor about that. I'm sure he did, because he was famous. But yes, J. Wellington Wimpy, the world's most notorious hamburger obsessed moocher. And yeah, he was also a friend of Popeye, but ironically he didn't appear in the cartoons that often, so maybe they're trying to get his character to disappear or get a retconned or something. I don't know. Here's another Popeye mural. Really cool. This must have been the Weebush Saloon. Cool, cool. And one thing I forgot to mention was that old opera house is now a Popeye museum, but it's mostly old memorabilia. Ironically, I saw another place that housed Popeye memorabilia, and it was the National Route 66 Museum in Elk City, Oklahoma. I actually featured that in one of my past videos. So yeah, I think it's very ironic that, I mean, it's not ironic, but I think it's cool that Popeye is well represented in a lot of places. See, it's called the Spinach Can Collectibles Museum. Okay, now we're gonna go to the third one. So now I am in the heart of Chester, the county seat of Randolph County. That is the Randolph County Courthouse. And in front of it is one of two statues. This is the third statue that was put up. Olive Oyl, who is holding Popeye's stepson, Swee'pea, as well as Eugene the Jeep, the little guy down here. There's no historical information here, but it goes without saying this gal needs no introduction. We all know she was the love interest of Popeye, Hamgravy, and Bluto. She was inspired by a local named Dora Pascal. I actually visited her grave. It was in my Evergreen Cemetery video that I've done a couple years back. But she was the fiance of Harold Hamgravy, who is just right over there. I'll get to him later in the video. But most of us know her as the thin, skinny as a toothpick Olive Oyl. She was portrayed by the late great Shelley Duvall in the 1980 movie. So yeah, like I said, there's really no historical information, but again, yeah. All right, now here's one of the memorable characters, the main antagonist of most of the Popeye franchise. It's Bluto, but internationally he is also known as Brutus. That is coming from a Lutheran church next door. But yes, this guy, he is always ready to open up a can of whoop ass if anything gets in his way, especially Popeye. He'll do anything to get Olive Oyl. And if anybody even thinks about robbing the spank, I mean, Bluto looks like he'll be ready. I mean, just look at his big arms of granite. All right, so it says down here, Popeye's first screen villain, 1933, Bluto's comic strip debut, 1932. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's more to Bluto or Brutus, but hey. I'm just gonna take a look at the back here. All right, now we are at the Memorial Hospital. A little close-up of Bernice, the Whiffle hen. But here's the historical inscription. Castor, Olive's brother, was always a schemer. In 1929, he met Bernice, the magical hen, and planned a boat trip to Dice Island. A very young Popeye was hired to pilot their boat. Elzie Segar, the year before he died, introduced Castor Oyl the detective. The likeness erected above during Castor's 90th year. And here's what Bernice looked like in 1929. And we're going to talk more about how Segar was a fan of Sherlock Holmes, but I'm sure this had a lot to do with him becoming a master detective. And just down the road at Walmart and McDonald's, two big corporations, is Sea Hag and Bernard the Vulture, one of the early antagonists. And last time I was here, this was not here, but oh well. Anywho, I'm going to read the historical text down here. All right, Sea Hag and Bernard the Vulture. The Sea Hag was created by Elzie Segar in 1929 as part of the Thimble Theater comic strip. She's become one of the principal enemies of Popeye the Sailor. Upon first meeting Popeye, she fell madly in love with him. With the aid of her pet vulture, Bernard, she consistently plots against Popeye, who remains uninterested in her romantically. In 2004, actress Kathy Bates performed the voice of the Sea Hag / Siren for the 3D CGI animated feature Popeye's Voyage, The Quest for Pappy. Currently, the role of Sea Hag has been annually performed on radio by Kathy Wren. Okay, cool. And then that's them. Pretty cool. Yeah, I'd say she definitely does look a little evil there, with her eyes closed too. And I'll get a little look at Bernard here. Alright, here's the 7th Popeye character statue put up. Coal Oyl, fittingly placed in front of Chester's Public Library. And see what he's reading here. Shakespeare, A.C. Doyle. Coal Oyl, father of Olive and Castor Oyl, husband to Nana, an original cast member of the Thimble Theater in 1919. Cole's character was inspired by Chester Library's founder, C.B. Cole. Alright, pretty cool. And the other book he was reading was Longfellow. Okay, on to the next statue. So located in front of the shopping center north of town is Alice the Goon and Child. This is Chester Center, where, you know, a strip mall, and you have Ace Hardware, then you have Dairy Queen. But this is Alice the Goon. It looks like she's got a shopping bag, so maybe it is appropriate to have it in front of a shopping center. And this is the Child. I'm gonna get rid of that cobweb. Ah, come on, go away. All right. Much better. But it says down here, Alice first appeared in 1933 as the beastly cohort of the evil Sea Hag. Alice the Goon and her child soon became friends with Popeye and fan favorites. And it wasn't until a year later her gender was revealed. A lot of people were not sure if it was male or female. And I'll tell you one interesting aspect about this statue is it lists all the 4 decades of the Citizens of the Year, going all the way back from 1973 to 2012. And I know 13 years, I don't know who was Citizens of the Year, but and next up is Poopdeck Pappy. He is on the grounds of Cohen Complex, which is basically an athletic complex with a baseball field and other recreational things to do. Alright, 1936, King Feature Syndicate instructed Elzie Segar to tone down Popeye's roughness. They feared his popular sailor was too rough for the millions of his young fans. Pappy, Popeye's ordinary father, was created to fill the void. Pappy's film debut came in the classic 1938 Fleischer release, Goonland. Huh. Okay. And I remember reading in the comics that he was in his 90s, like he was really old to be in Popeye's father. But hey, I mean, if he's still willing to help out Popeye in such situation. And I noticed how sharp those things are. All right, so here is Professor O.G. Wotasnozzle. Says down here, Elzie Segar debuted this eccentric inventor and self-described genius on May 8th, 1932 by writing him into the popular Sapo comic. The professor became a mainstay in the Popeye comic books of the 1940s. Okay, pretty cool. I guess having a professor would be fitting to have something in front of Chester High School. And it looks like I came during construction time. It looks like they're doing something to the facade. But anyway, A little creepy here and there, but yeah, I can see where the eccentric part comes from. Okay, now we've reached the food portion of it. It is outside Reed's Harvest House Smorgasbord, and this is Rough House, who was a chef, and he was also a diner owner. Well, they'll explain more on the historical. All right, so down here it says, Segar's hard-working chef debuted on May 24th, 1931. He owns and operates the Rough House Cafe. Since the diner serves hamburgers, Wimpy frequents the beanery in constant search of a free meal, and his famous plea, "I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today," is synonymous with con artistry. So yes, putting it in front of the one of Chester's legendary restaurants is definitely very fitting. Here are Popeye's 4 nephews. They all got their own sculpture. It is fittingly outside the Chester Grade School. And right here it says these miniature replicas of Popeye first appeared in a dream sequence in the 1940 film Women as a Mystery. They returned as Popeye's 4 nephews in the 1942 film Popeye, Popeye, Poopeye, and Peepeye, and many other films for 4 decades. Alright, so now we're going to start with Popeye. Popeye. Sitting on a can of spinach. Popeye. Okay. And by the way, that is Chester Water Tower with Popeye's face on it. And then Peepeye. Very, very cool. Alright, now on to King Bluto. So yes, this is one of the most important buildings in the city, if not the important. But yes, that is Popeye up there on top. Oh, very nice. And there's even a Popeye doll. And this here is King Bluto. This was put up in 2017. He was the ruler of Spinachovia, who debuted in the 1931 Thimble Theater comic strip, The Great Rough House War. And even though every character trail statue has this, I think it's fitting that I just do this in front of the municipal building. This was the mayor of Chester at the time in 2017, Tom Page, and all the aldermen and all that. Interesting stuff either way. So this is probably the farthest statue outside town. I mean, it's not that far, but it's kind of out there in the middle of the country. But this is Nana Oyl outside a retirement home. An original cast member of Thimble Theater. She was the wife of Coal Oyl, the mother of Castor Oyl, and Olive Oyl. And here is her family depicted up here. Start with Nana Oyl, Olive Oyl, Coal, and Castor Oyl. I forgot to mention that Castor Oyl is obviously named after, yes, castor oil. So I'm making mention of that. Alright, now on to the next statue. Alright, this one is titled Popeye's Pups. And one of them is named Chester, obviously, after the town. And this one doesn't really have much historical inscription on it, but Popeye and the Perennial Pups. First appearances in comic strips. Fido by Segar in 1916. Snitz by Segar in 1920. And then Chester by Eisman in 1996. Eisman is currently the artist in charge of Popeye right now. And this is fittingly in front of the Chester Fire Department building. Yes, Elzie Segar, creator of Popeye. That is actually, yes, that is a statue of him, but he is disguised as Sherlock Holmes. He was a big fan of the Sherlock Holmes franchise. I mean, Sherlock Holmes is one of those British characters, and it dates back to the 19th century. I don't know the exact year or decade, but so I mean, Sherlock Holmes, it definitely got people into mysteries, especially kids and teenagers. But this statue was intentionally erected in 2019 because it was the 125th anniversary of Segar's birth. It acknowledges Segar's compelling interest in the master detective. And then just a little of his face there. And I'm sure these are clues to the crime scene and all that. Some of the sponsors. Red. I'm sure maybe blood has something to do with it, I don't know. And I did not know this until now, but there is actually a time capsule underneath here too. So, but there at the beginning point where Popeye's statue is, there is another time capsule there, but it's not going to be open until 2082. This one is going to be 2094. Yeah, I don't think I'll be around that long, but who knows. And here's some more donors over here, like the Sherlock Holmes Society of London, the Japanese Sherlock Holmes Club, the Parallel Case of St. Louis. Wow. Alright, so here is Toar, and that over there is the St. Nicholas Brewing Company. It is only open Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 11 to 8. So I thought maybe I can get a beer, a cold one, but unfortunately not today. But I'm going to see what the historical inscription is. Where are you at? Here it is. 20,000-year-old caveman debuted on February 7th, 1935 as Popeye's foe, but soon became one of his most trusted friends. Oh man. And somebody left rock there. Okay. Harold Hamgravy was put up in 2021. I think it was October of that year. And he is intentionally placed here right in front of the courthouse and by Olive Oyl because now he can stare and gaze at his love 24/7. But yeah, he had a very sad ending. On December 19th, 1919, Harold Hamgravy and Olive Oyl became the premier characters of Segar's cartoon series, Thimble Theater. Popeye's debut would follow January 17th, 1929. Oh man, talk about some competition here. I am now coming to you live from Cole Memorial Park, which is somewhat south of Chester, and at the new disc golf is the 19th and final statue in the Popeye Trail. This is Oscar, and give you a little close look of him, like his buck teeth and everything, his eyes. And I don't know what he's holding. Unfortunately, I'm not really that familiar with the character. It looks like a disc for something. And on the back, it says Oscar, Popeye's comedic comrade, debuted in 1931. Named after Segar's friend and tavern owner, Oscar Winningbrink, per family history. And then, sadly, below it, it says Popeye and Friends Character Trail 2006 to 2022. Creator and coordinator, Michael W. McClure. Never take your dreams for granted. Of course, pun intended, because yes, this is granite. Okay, so that wraps it up, and it's very unfortunate, like I said, because I don't know how long the series could have gone for. I don't know how many other Popeye characters are deserving their own statue, but according to Popeye and Friends Character Trail's Facebook page, which I believe is run by Mike McClure, he said that due to the rising cost of many things, I'm sure granite had a big chunk to do with that. I mean, let's face it, after COVID-19, a lot of things went up in price. It doesn't matter what. So, yeah, COVID-19, I hate to, I mean, I know I don't like the subject itself, but it changed a lot of things. I don't know if it would still be going on today, but the lady who worked at that museum, I was talking to her because I wanted to cool off, and she was very talkative, but she said that in 2029 will be the 100th birthday of Popeye. It would have been kind of fitting had it went on for 7 more years, or if they would erect one more statue that year, maybe a much bigger statue of Popeye, I don't know. But yeah, all good things must come to an end. So 2022 was the last year, in other words 3 years ago. But yeah, Chester still celebrates its most beloved icon and one of its favorite sons. They do have the Popeye race, or the 5K, or whatever it is. They also have a festival, and people from around the world still come here. YouTubers like me, for instance. So But I am Jason, coming to you from Cole Memorial Park in Chester, Illinois. Sign off.